Here we go. This is going to be such an amazing topic for parents. We're talking about the struggles of homework. Do we make our kids do it? Do we sit over them and like, gotta do your homework? Do we make them become responsible for themselves, suffer the consequences if they don't do it? What do we do here? How do we motivate them to take responsibility and feel pride? I mean, I think that's really what we're going for, right? So my name is Dale Ecuyer. I have an incredible guest with me today. It's such an honor to have you, Louise, really. She is a parent coach, a mom, an entrepreneur, a podcast host. I love the name of your podcast, Parenting in the Thick of It, I love the name because I always say that. I'm always like, yeah, you're in the thick of it.
It's true, right? I'm in the thick of it too. Just because I do what I do, it doesn't get me off scot-free. I have 3, 20-year-old, 18-year-old, and 15-year-old. I'm in the thick of it.
Yes, I hear you. I feel like I'm still in the thick of it. And my youngest is 21. And I'm still, like today, I was with my daughter, still doing stuff, right? And she's 32. All right. Well, I am listening. I am taking notes. So parents, come and listen to this. I know who doesn't have struggles with homework. I don't think any parent doesn't have a problem with it, right? So let us know, like, what is the struggle? How do we stop the struggle? What can we do to help our kids, like, take it upon themselves to get motivated and do it and feel good about it? So what do we do? Yeah. Do we just kind of step away and let them deal with it? I guess it depends on the age, right?
Well, it really does depend on the age. It depends on the day. It depends on whatever else is going on. There's just so many balls in the air. And I think the other big thing that many parents really struggle with is not just the homework, but is how do they get their kids off the device and onto the homework, because they're all doing their homework on a device now. And we know that they are absolute whizzes at getting, apps that are only available on the phone. Suddenly we find they're on their laptops and we're like, okay, I said you could use your laptop to do your homework, but now you're actually doing this on your laptop. So they are having to juggle a lot of things, and they're being pulled in many directions as well. So I think that the first thing we need to enter as parents is a bit of compassion for them, and just understand how persuasive all the digital platforms and apps and social media things and games are for our kids, and that they are way more exciting to them than their math homework. So if we're up, if we understand that, and yes, we understand it, but I mean really help them understand that we get how hard it is to have access to this shiny, luring, persuasive thing in the face of a very dull, boring piece of homework that they might have to hand in. So, we have to be present to each situation. And it might work tonight that they do their homework, but tomorrow night they don't. So we have to be present to what is, let go of what isn't, and work out what needs to be done here. And I think the key thing to remember is, ask yourself, and you mentioned this at the beginning, Dale, is whose homework is it? Yeah. And it's their homework. And you might be saying, yeah, but if I don't get involved, they won't do it. So you have to work out how do we motivate them to do it without us doing it for them? Because if we do too much for them, it makes them feel like we don't trust them that they can do it as well as we can. And it can almost render them incapable and disempower them. But if we just say it's your homework, I'm having nothing to do with your homework. I've done my math. I don't need to be doing this. It's you've made your bed. That could almost be neglectful. So how do we find this balance between, supporting them and facilitating the process without helicoptering them and micromanaging them and becoming too over-involved or interfering too much? So it's this balance. So I always think with homework that more important than the homework to me, is just my opinion, is setting up good patterns, setting up good work habits, because that's really what it's all about. The kids should be learning certain things at school, but the homework is almost, if we see it as it's a way in which to help the child develop some work habits outside of the classroom that are going to lend themselves to being able to develop that skill set so they can work independently outside of the classroom and build the life skills required for the real world. Really, that's what it is in a nutshell. So how do we help them organize, plan, work in a finite period of time? So I think I kind of look at myself as being a kind of more of an executive functioning coach with my kids, because those are the executive functioning skills required to plan, inhibit. We have to inhibit the desire to be on our phones because we need to focus on something else. We have to organize. We have to prioritize. So how can we help support those roles and help them plan for it, and then set up structure? I think structure is really key. Have the structure and framework so that the child can work within it and prioritize the non-preferred activities, as in homework and chores, over the preferred activities, screens, 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 and if we're lucky to get them outside. So, they're juggling a lot and we're juggling a lot, but I think sometimes we look at the homework as just got to get the homework done. If we look beneath it, what do they need to, what can we help them with to facilitate the process of homework? So it might be, when you've done your homework, then you can play Fortnite for an hour or whatever it might be. Not if, because then the hoop and the homework and the hoop and Fortnite become conditional. They become a bribe or a reward.
Ooh, just that one word, just that one word.
Yeah, if to when, no, there's no if about it. You have to do the homework. And I always say to my kids, I say, you know what, I don't blame you. I'd hate to have to sit and do 20 F equals MAs, for your physics, or 20, algebraic equations. I get it. I had to do it. It's so boring to have to sit and learn your tables or write these words out 100 times to make sure you've spelt them correctly. You just have to do it. It's one of those things. You have to do it. So how can I help you get through it? And so giving them enough support without doing too much. And also, not doing it for them, because the teachers know when parents have done it for them. All their peers know when a parent's done it for them. And think about how it would make your child feel if you do it for them. They might be happy in the face of it. Oh, Mom's just done my essay. That means I don't need to do it. But underneath that, they're not going to feel too good about themselves knowing that someone else did it, especially say they did really well in it. And now they have to do something else the following day in the classroom and they can't do it. They didn't learn during the homework. So we have to let them hand in work that is not 100%, that is not completely spell checked, that is not edited, that has mistakes, careless mistakes, if you've been through the math, because that's how they learn. They learn from their mistakes. We have to let them go to school and leave the project on the dining table. So they remember, oh my goodness, if I don't take it in, I won't get my mark. And that's so hard. I was interviewed in a podcast recently for my own show. And, what are the hardest things for me as a parent? And it would be, one of the things would be to see them fail, to see them hand in work that I know is not going to get them the mark they want. But, if I interfere too much, so they get the mark they want, but what do they learn? There's just so many things, but, structure and routine and having, screens separate to the homework room. So if they're doing their homework on their laptop, help them switch off everything else, switch off notifications maybe on their laptops and phone-based with no notifications coming in on their phones, and maybe say to them, work for 40 minutes or 45 minutes and then check your phone. But then put your phone down and work for another chunk of time. So they learn to work outside of, separate to their phones, so the phones don't distract them. So setting up the system, setting up the routine, and then holding those limits and helping them work within them.
So do you think it's important for them to set up, because I know when my kids were growing up, it was like, the question of, do we have them do their homework as soon as they get home from school, or do we let them take a break and then do the homework. So I guess that could be like, do you think that's a choice that the parent should make, that the child should make? Again, it probably comes down to the age, but just your opinion about that.
I think it comes down to the age, it comes down to the stage, it comes down to the day. You know, they might, if we have a blanket rule that says when you come home from school, and it's a tight rule, you have a snack, do your homework, that's it. That might not work every day. Because, you know, in 3 weeks, they might suddenly be invited for a play date that they really want to go on. And does that mean they miss their homework because they miss the play date because of homework? So I say, I think structure is good, and have a rough structure. I'm an advocate of getting the child involved in the decision-making process, because, you know, for me with my kids, one would probably be quite happy, more happy to come home from school, grab a snack and get the homework done. Mm-hmm. The other, good luck, because she's a fly by the seat of your pants, leave everything to the last minute. If she's got 6 hours and she knows it takes her half an hour, she will do it between hours 5.5 and 6. If I impose my agenda on her, we're going to fight the whole way. And so I learned that very, very early with, you know, having a child who was more like, no, I'm doing it my way. And I think we have to honor that to a degree. Obviously, when they're younger, you know, bedtime comes into it, dinner time comes into it. And, you know, we are more kind of in vague control of the routine when they're younger, you know, maybe if they're in primary school or elementary school. But as they get older into the later grades in high school, it's very difficult to say, you have to be in your bed at 9:30. But we can hope to set the patterns up that are conducive to them hopefully being finished their homework by a certain time. But I like to ask the kid, Dale, and say, you know, what works for you? When do you prefer to get your homework done? Do you want to have a break and do it after supper? Would you rather have a short break and get it done before dinner? Or what works for you? And it might be, you know, you can create some structure, but on a Monday they've got baseball practice, and on a Thursday they've got hockey. So Mondays and Thursdays after school, they can't do homework. So homework will be later. But there needs to be structure there. Like, the kid needs to know, you can't do your homework after school on these 2 days. So remember that. We'll be doing it after dinner. So it might be that dinner's slightly earlier on those 2 days, so that you've got time between dinner and bedtime. You know, we quite a bit of organization on our part. But I think that fosters healthier work habits for our kids than if we just are random about it, and dinner's super late, but it's also the night they came home from, they've been at a basketball practice and suddenly they haven't done their homework, but we're just finishing dinner and it's 9 p.m. You know, that's not the kid's fault. And it might not be the parents either, but, you know, a bit of structure and planning on our part can go a long way to be conducive to fostering better work habits or homework habits for them. And then there'll be less arguing, because they're not going to come 9 o'clock and say, well, I couldn't do it because dinner was so late. I've got basketball on a Monday. It's like, okay, we know that. So I believe that's our role, to make sure there's enough time at the right time for them to do it. And if they while away the time and they don't get it done, they have to understand that, you know, we're not going to bed at 11 because homework wasn't done. I remember one of my kids, I think it was my eldest, was one night he was going up to bed. I can't even remember how old he was, but he was primary, elementary, he probably grade 5 or 6 or something like that, 10 or 11. And he was going off up to bed, and it was about 8:45. And he went, oh, I haven't done my homework. I got to do it. And I said, well, it's too late now. You can't do it now. No, Mom, the teacher, I said, I know, but you can't do it now because you have to go to bed. Because for me, bedtime, you have to go to bed at a certain time, because otherwise you're not actually going to be able to do any homework, because you'll be chronically sleep deprived if this habit perpetuates. But I said, so what are you going to do about it? Because you can't do it now, sweetheart. I was compassionate. And he said, I don't know, Mom. I said, well, what choices do you have? See, I wasn't saying, well, you need to. I'm like, what choices do you have? And he goes, well, if I can't do it now, maybe I can wake up early. I said, maybe you could wake up early. Any others? He goes, well, maybe I could. You know, he might have said, well, can you email the teacher? And I'm like, no, I won't email the teacher, but you could maybe speak to the teacher in the morning. Yeah, I could do that. What do you want to do? I want to wake up early, and I'll try and get half an hour done before I go to school. Okay, would you like me to wake you earlier? Yes. So he went off to bed, knowing, because then I'm not pushing the bound to serve him for his homework. He forgot about his homework. So he forgot. So he'll learn not to forget if I don't bail him and let him stay up till 11 just because he forgot. Because then the next night, the 9 o'clock becomes the 9:15, forget the homework, becomes a pattern.
Wow. That's really powerful. Like, wow. So good. Because this is life lessons here. You know,
Yeah.
I think parents are afraid to do something like that. But, you know, I remember doing something similar with a play date where, you know, my son, when he was little, I don't remember how old, but he put up a fuss, you know, leaving. So the next time I actually faked a phone call where I said, no, I'm sorry, he can't come. We had a little bit of trouble leaving. We'll try it again another time. So he was, you know, so upset, but it never happened again.
Yeah.
He never put up a fuss again. So it was like the consequences, like, and
Yeah.
again, like not angrily, you know, it was just like matter of fact, like,
yeah. I'm really sorry that you forgot to do your homework, but you can't do it now. See,
yeah,
what fear, we then fear, so if he doesn't do it now, what are the repercussions of that? That story goes on and we catastrophize. In the moment, we go, okay, just do it now, but do it quickly. And suddenly it's 11 o'clock. And you have to ask, what do you want your kid to learn? If you want them to be motivated to do the homework on time and in a you know, with enough effort to get whatever it is they want to get out of it, we have to facilitate the process so that they can achieve what they want to achieve, not what I want them to achieve. And then beyond just the homework, you know, it's like, what are the life skills we want them to be equipped with to leave the home? We don't want them working for someone and the person saying the report needs to be done by Friday at noon and them going, oh, I didn't get it done, sorry. And meanwhile, they left the office at 4 o'clock the night before because there was some team ultimate thing on down at the beach. No, you know, they have to be able to plan, you know. So what does your week look like? What homework? And parents often say, well, should I even know what's going on? And depending on the age of the kid, you know, as they get older, we have less and less to do with their homework. They are more in charge of it. But if we set up good patterns when they're younger, then that will, you know, kick into gear and they will be. But I think, you know, we can on a Sunday maybe say to them, or on a Monday when they've been to school for the first day of the week, what's your week looking like? Right. You know, what homework have you got? Have you got any assignments that are not for tomorrow, but for a few days out? If they say, yeah, I've got a socials thing that needs to be done, we've got 2 weeks for it. I'm like, okay, you've got 2 weeks for it. How do you want to plan for that? Because it's, you know, what's involved? How much work, how much time do you think it's going to take you? They might say, well, I don't know. Then you might look at it and say, well, you might be able to help them work out how much time. Not look at it and say, that's going to take you 4 hours. Or say, how much time do you really think it's going to take? Look, you've got this, this, and this, maybe a bit of that. Trying to get them to come to the answer rather than us just solve it for them. And then say, okay, well, this week, if you're going to work on it this week, what time could you work on it? Like, when could you do it? No, you can't do it on Tuesday because you're going to Jack's house on Tuesday. Wednesday, no, we've got dinner at Grandma's on Wednesday. Thursday, yeah, totally clear day. Maybe Thursday's a day where you block an hour for your socials. How about the weekend? So we help them work out how they can achieve the end result in a finite period of time.
I love it. I mean, these are all such valuable skills, and it gives them control. It dissipates any kind of conflict or, you know.
And it might not dissipate conflict. They might be pushing you, go, I don't want to do it on Thursday. It's my only day off. I don't want to go to Grandma's. You planned that. And yeah, I want to go to Jack's, and there might be a bit of conflict. But we have to look at, you know, not dialing into the drama, because that conflict really from them is just fear. They don't want to do it. It's a boring social assignment, homework. They don't want to do it. They want to be doing other things.
Mm-hmm.
Embodying their experience and being on their page. I get it. You don't want to do it. But it's one of those have tos, my darling. You just have to get it done. I'm here to help you. I'm not going to do it for you, but I can help you plan for it. and and not take their resistance to the homework as resistance to us and taking it personally.
Yeah.
Jessica asked a question here. It's all blocking out their time, school, study, family, friends, and life. Yeah, Jessica, absolutely. It's, but that's where, an 11-year-old is not going to be able to do that. They're so present just in the moment. They want to play, they want to be at friends, they want to game a bit, they want to do this, that. So we have to help them pull that all together, but not actually do the homework for them. Most parents end up trying to do it for them and forcing their kids to do it. If you can get the back end of it more in place and a bit of structure, it'll be easier for them to fit into the structure and get it done. And when you set the boundary, this has to be done before you do that, then they know I'd better do it. And then, it can also help motivate them, because then they get it done and then they've got free time as well.
And then they feel good about themselves. I think that's the most important thing, right? For them to feel proud.
Yeah, absolutely.
Feel like, they did this thing. I mean, that's life, right? There are many things in life that we have to do that we don't want to do. Yeah. So we can, that's great. This is wonderful.
And then not focusing on, if they've handed in, or had a test, or they've handed in homework, then for us to focus on the process and the journey of it versus the outcome, that's what's going to motivate them. If we're just focused on the outcome, like, well, what did you get for your test and the result and the grade? That's just like the end result. I want my kids to know why they got the end result. So I'm going to focus on what it took for them to get it, how them being more organized achieved X end result. That's what's going to develop self-esteem, if when we encourage them as to what they did to get the end result. Doesn't matter whether the end result's a C, a D, a B, or an A. If we focus on what it took, the effort required, the strengths they dialed into in order to do it, the fact they were more organized, the fact they planned, that's encouraging for them. That's going to motivate them to either try harder the next time or keep trying harder. It's the encouragement piece is huge, and it will contribute to them feeling less anxious as well, Jessica, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see how that would absolutely have them feel more in control, and then feel obviously less anxious. That's amazing.
Versus an A, like, oh, that's brilliant, you got an A, good job, wow, bet you were top in the class, did everyone else get an A? That's just all focused to the end result. That's not actually going to help your kid that much. That's praise, and I could speak for hours on the subtle differences between encouragement and praise. Maybe I'll come back and talk about that.
Yes, that would be very interesting topic for sure. Teens especially, or every age, all age?
Oh, every age. I try and to parents for every age, but the way I coach and what I speak to is it all comes back to us, Dale. How do I show up in the face of my kids saying, I'm not doing my homework? Or how do I show up in the face of your kid, bullying someone at school? You never expected it, but they have. Or, whatever they've done, we have to be able to show up in the face of that in control of ourselves, self-regulated, so that we can actually be open and curious and compassionate and empathetic in guiding them to what needs to be done as a result of what's happened. But so often what they do triggers us. We're terrified, and we then react. And when we react, we dial right into the drama, and it doesn't make things any easier. So the way I coach, and the way I speak in my podcasts, it's relevant to everybody, even if I'm talking about a toddler, because it's how do I control myself in the face of it? And a teenager, same thing.
Yeah, even more so, because they are definitely at that age where they want to be independent and be in control of their lives. And if you're bucking that, and I think it's understanding, like, child development, which I think a lot of people don't understand, like, what is normal. Like, that's a whole other conversation for sure.
It is, but toddlers and teens are very similar, because the toddler is now wanting to exert their independence. I can do it. I can tie my shoelaces myself. Don't you try and do it for me, Mom. Just teen is, and actually, if you do get into the brain science, the toddler brain and the teen brain is at a very similar stage in development.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard that actually. I recently heard that. And that is so interesting. And there's actual science to prove it.
Oh, it's all open from a neurophysiological perspective.
Yeah. So interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting. All right. Well, thank you so much. I don't want to take more of your time, but I so appreciate you being with me here today. And let's definitely come back and do that. Encouragement versus praise.
Yes. And the effect of it on developing self-esteem, because that's really it in a nutshell. If we praise, we don't build their self-esteem. If we encourage them, we build self-esteem. And we all know what we want to build in our kids.
Yes. All right. That's fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for being with me. I so appreciate you. And I will look forward to having you on again.
I love being here, Dale. And we'll look forward to chatting about encouragement as a second language maybe next time. But thanks very much. And thanks to everyone listening.
Yes. Thank you.